Welcome back to Exactly What I'm Saying. Today, I get to talk to an author, historian, and photographer. I'd like to introduce you all to my friend, Dr. Daniel Gifford. Whenever I'm starting the recording so that I know exactly where I need to skip to for the syncing. Because the syncing the audio with the video has been my biggest challenge. And I pretty much immediately after the first video, once I was doing the editing, realized what, like, some of it is stuff that's actually, if you did any research, is recommended to do, but I didn't do any research. I was just like, it can't be that hard. It is, and those little tips and tricks along the way really make a huge difference. But
pop this so it doesn't.
yeah.
All right.
Well, are you comfortable? Do you
Yep.
feel comfortable? All right, perfect. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is super exciting. I think you're probably one of the first, like, you've known about this since it was just an idea, and it all happened very fast.
Yeah.
But I think one of the first things I said when telling you about this was, well, you're definitely coming on. And it's happened now by the third episode, and I'm super excited about that.
I'm just excited to be here and glad I wasn't on the maiden voyage.
Yes.
You never want to be on the Titanic, so.
Yes.
But we're past the iceberg and, it's smooth sailing from here on out.
Yeah. No, yes. Man, so you just of all the things that I know about you, you do a lot of really cool stuff, but like really, really well. And the first thing I want to talk about is just your experience as a historian and an author. I know that you've written a few books. I think I know the answer, but how many books have you written?
3.
3.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's super awesome. So AI, there's an AI out there that was taught by one of your books, right?
Yeah. So this came totally out of the blue, but my name was one of the names of a list of authors that apparently had been scraped by one of the AI companies to teach
That's so wild.
their bot, whatever they're called. And it was my first book, which is about holidays, American holidays, and images, postcards. And what's funny is the lawsuit wasn't because they used my work. The lawsuit was because it was pirated, and they had left a paper trail. So all of this totally came out of the blue. These class action lawsuits, who knows when it'll actually be completed.
But there is a possibility you'll be getting paid for it.
Yes.
That's so wild.
That is the possibility. And then, there's the part of me that was like, really incensed that, they had basically stolen one of my books to teach AI. And then my second reaction was, well, why didn't they use the other 2? Why did they only stop with one? Why did they just pick one?
That is so funny. Like, hey, Mr. AI, I don't know if you noticed, but I do have 2 other books. Feel free to pirate those whenever you want.
And then the idea that, AI is going to be answering questions, by the billions, but there's one little pice of it in there that is Dan Gifford.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. I love that. Are you working on any books currently? Or
Not right now. So my most recent book, which is about Louisville history and about the creation of our local historical society over 140 years ago, the Filson Historical Society, that came out just last year. So that's still pretty fresh, and
yeah,
not quite done with all the stuff from that. So yeah,
like there'll be reissue, republication, like newer publications with minor edits and stuff like that.
Yeah, if we end up with a
Editions.
second printing, there'll be that, and so yeah, there's just still a little bit of stuff going on with that. So yeah, I haven't started
That's so
a
cool.
new project yet.
There's a few Facebook. I didn't even think about this until just now, but there's a few Facebook pages that I've been seeing lately, like kind of doom scrolling through the reels, and they talk about a lot of historical Louisville stuff. But there's one, the one that is sticking out to me the most right now was like there was an old Civil War base, I think near where the water treatment facility is now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with this?
I know a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not actually from Louisville originally.
Yeah. Where are you from originally?
Well, I grew up an Army brat, so kind of a lot of places, but both sides of the family were from the St. Louis area.
Yeah.
And so that was always home, even though we moved around a lot, if we went home for Christmas or, summer or vacation, it was always back to Missouri and the St. Louis area.
Very cool. That's where like a lot of your extended family is.
So, as a recent transplant, we moved here in 2017. There's a lot of Louisville history that I'm vaguely aware of. I've seen, probably similar Facebook posts or an article in the Filson newsletter. But yeah, there's a lot of stories that I still need to learn.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm always hearing new stuff. Like there's, it's like these underground tunnels underneath the seminary that apparently like connect all of the buildings within the seminary, and I think go outside of a little bit. I don't know. It's just wild.
Mm-hmm.
Just super duper wild. Well, as a historian, so do you consider yourself retired or semi-retired?
Probably, yeah, probably semi-retired.
Semi-retired.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
Because I know you do some occasional work. And like one of the most recent things you were telling me about was the radio station that I think you're maybe coming back for Valentine's Day to do, to just talk about the history of the coming of that. I didn't know if you consider that work or fun.
That's a good question. Is that work or fun? I guess both. So, I mentioned my first book was about holidays and holiday images and sort of a little bit of history about holidays. And there's a couple really amazing scholars in that field. So I always joke that I'm the third most authority on American holiday history.
Nice.
So after they've reached out to the first two and they're not available, I often will get a call, and usually it's increasingly last minute.
Right.
They've taken all their time trying to get the good ones, But yes, so occasionally I'll still get an NPR affiliate or a magazine or newspaper or something like that,
or local podcaster,
that want to talk holidays or anything else.
Yeah, so it's like it is your work, but it is kind of for fun.
Yeah,
and
and I definitely wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy being a resource and just getting some of the stuff that I did. And a lot of that research is getting on in years now, so there's new scholarship coming out. But if I can sort of feed that beast and get someone interested in the topic, and then they can take it and do more research and add new stuff, that's
definitely kind of work off of of the foundation you've built.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Man. Well, so I know that you also have a very large interest in photography. I was just curious, how long have you considered yourself a photographer? Because I know that it's like we all take pictures,
right?
But I don't know if it was always just you found that love for it and went with it, and you're like, I've been a photographer since the moment I picked up the camera. Or when did that all start? How did that start?
Yeah, so I don't have any formal or even informal training. I never took a class or a course.
Love that.
subscribe to a magazine. So pretty much everything is self-taught. So history is my second career. So my first career, this is going to be a long answer.
No, that's fine. Yeah. I'm here for it. I love this.
I was born before I became a historian, my first career was in ecotourism, and I did a lot of work in developing trips, first all around the country and then all around the world. And pretty soon into that career, I had a little disposable camera, and it was actually my first trip to Yosemite.
Yeah.
And I had this little dinky camera, it was, of course, the film era.
As an ecotourism person,
mm-hmm.
This is why you were in Yosemite?
Yeah.
So cool.
I was on leading kind of managing a trip to a group that was on a trip to Yosemite.
That's so cool.
And I had this little camera, and, it was basically point and shoot, and developed the film and got the pictures back. And, Yosemite is so amazing. Yeah. And these pictures were just, and I'm like, it was kind of a light bulb moment where I'm like, if I'm going to keep going to these amazing places, if I'm lucky enough to have a job that lets me go to these amazing places, I really should have a better camera.
Sure. Especially when you're looking at, I don't know if the Ansel Adams gallery was set up then. Are you familiar with this photographer?
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're looking at all of these photos around the valley of Ansel Adams took, and you're like, okay, something needs the difference between the two, which obviously Ansel Adams is amazing, but something's got to give.
Yeah. And so went out and bought a pretty high-end camera, fell in love from the get-go with basically call them bridge cameras, all-in-one cameras. I didn't want to start having to carry around a lot of lenses and take lenses on and off.
So this was still point and shoot.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but it was high-end point and shoot.
Oh yeah, no, it's some point and shoot. I think it kind of your mind goes to cheap or just not high quality, but they're point and shoot cameras that are put out amazing work, and it's all about perspective and how you use it at the end of the day.
Yeah, so I started developing a little bit of an eye. I said I didn't have any training. I'd had a couple design classes. They gave me just a little bit of perspective about, the rule of thirds, where you don't always center something. You push it to one side or the other and try to divide the picture into thirds. Started to learn a little bit about light and color and all that. And then when digital cameras came out.
So this was film. I wanted to ask before we moved on. Yeah.
That was still film.
Do you remember what the camera was called?
It was an Olympus IO3, I think.
Olympus IO3. Cool. I'm gonna look that up, and I'm gonna show a picture of this camera.
And if that turns out to be vaporware, if there's no such thing,
sure, we'll figure it out.
Something else. But then I got my first digital camera. Same concept, same an all in one. The lens really good, but not having to develop the film was just so freeing. And I got you could take as many shots as you wanted, you could play with the settings, you could do, and I had never thought of this until just now telling this story, but that also coincided with when I got LASIK. And I got rid of glasses and contacts, and I think that was a big shift too, where I wasn't always lifting glasses or wiping glasses or them getting foggy.
Totally. Because just the glare on your glasses can change that perspective.
Yeah, and so I could bring the camera right up to my eye. I wasn't bringing it to the lens. I had never thought of that till just this moment, but I think that was another big step, and it kind of corresponded to digital. And then at that point, I've just been taking photos. And even when I left ecotourism, and changed careers, I continued to pursue that love of scenic photography, architectural photography. Never got big into portraiture, never got big into some of the other genres, but definitely fell in love with cityscapes, landscapes.
Yes,
architecture.
I love your photography. And we've talked about this before, how like even if I'm taking a photo of a building, I get lost in the ability to take a cool photo of that building without a person in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need that person there to kind of be at least part focus for, and you will just take a picture of a window with light coming through it. I'm like, how did you capture this? It's so beautiful. Like yeah, it's gorgeous.
And I also have the exact opposite of you. I will stand there on the corner for 10 minutes
Waiting.
waiting for all the people to disappear.
Yes.
And my husband Steve will look out, all right, you're gonna have a clear shot in 5, 4.
Yes.
And so it's team effort to get the people out of all the photos.
I love that you just referenced Steve, because I wanted to bring him up. I love the relationship to photography that you and Steve share. I just learned about kind of this application of it, but the one that I know is that there are times that he'll maybe walk ahead a little bit and be like, okay, I found this spot. Oh, it's got a great spot where we can set the camera and stabilize it. And like he kind of does recon for you and reports back. And that's so cool. Like, how did that even did that kind of start at the same time, or?
Well, it's funny, I guess once I expressed this interest in photography, one thing I think he said is, well, we don't need 2 photographers in a relationship. So if you want to take this and run with it, great. So, but I think rather than just sort of standing around waiting for me to finish, he gets invested in, the final photographs as well. So yeah, let me go ahead. Let me see if there's a better angle, better.
Well, it speaks so true to how Steve is, because like you said, he's very communal. If you guys are out with friends and decide, oh, I'm going to have another drink, well, he's going to have another drink too, for the camaraderie and the community of it.
Yes.
Where that one is definitely more relaxation. It's cool that translates over into your personal hobbies, and now it's kind of become y'all's hobby.
Yeah.
Even though you're the photographer, he doesn't seem to harbor any resentment of the fact that you're the one taking the picture. He loves his relationship and his ability to support in the way that he can.
Yeah.
And I think that that's amazing. I think that that's so cool.
Well, and the root of the word communal and community, commune.
Yes.
And I think we both sort of commune around the same things. We both commune around, this is going to be a photograph that we look at and as our souvenir for years to come. And
couldn't have gotten a better postcard at the, like.
So I think, I think there is a sort of, communication and commonality and there's
and
a
support
lot.
And just like, No, him to be, the first time he told me about it, I could see how excited he was about it. And I just thought that was so cool, especially because I know that we're both Leos. I'm not going to say that this is true for you, but for me, it is harder for me to be the support to the spotlight like that. You know what I mean? Like I want to be in the action in a way that, and I am able to support things where I'm not the main focus, but I just saw the level of excitement and I was like, okay, this is like real. This isn't even something, he's not putting aside a part of himself to do this. He is doing this and stoked about it. And like, I could just sense how genuine it was. And I just thought that was so cool, because y'all have taken some really cool pictures. Like,
and the funny story, we were on a trip in Switzerland, and there was this, we're in this really cool town. There were all these cool castles with mountains, but the hills were just vertical.
Yeah.
And I was done. I don't care what's at the top of that hill. I don't care what that photo is. And then he's like, well, give the camera to me and I'll go up, and I've got a little gas left in the tank, and I'll get up the hill.
Nice.
And he did. But his photos were freaking awesome.
Oh, heck yeah.
So he doesn't take the camera, but he's obviously, using a lot of the same skills when he composes, and when you do hand him the camera, it's like, damn, that's a good photo.
Yeah, he gets it.
Yeah.
No, I love that. That's so cool. Oh man. So I guess I did want to circle back just a little bit. How long has that been now that you've been taking photos in a way that feels more than just like?
Yeah. I would have gotten that first camera probably about 97.
Okay. Dang. So like almost 30 years.
Yeah, coming up on 30 years.
Yeah, coming up on 30 years. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So in that time, you've had your work published, your photography work published in a few magazines, right? At least one I know of. How many?
A real small.
Okay.
Maybe five or six.
No, that's not real small, dude. You're an author historian, okay? You're like, yeah, just 5 or 6 magazines, no big deal.
And I maybe got one that is actually the one I think is the coolest, is not a magazine, but I guess at one point I had a few photos up on a website or something like that, but someone had found one of my photos of a Christmas market in Berlin.
Oh.
And she was a professional opera singer. She was like a soprano, or, and she had done a album of winter and Christmas themed opera music.
Amazing.
And she asked if she could use the photo as the cover of the CD. So
as a cover.
So every Christmas we have a copy of the CD that we set out along with the other Christmas decorations, and that's my photo.
How do you feel about the music? Is it a good album?
If you know anything about opera.
If you know anything about, that's fair. Yeah.
But it sounds beautiful.
Yes, I can say that I appreciate opera. I don't. It's probably one of the least familiar styles of music I really have. Like, I have to be in the mood for sure. Yeah. So that's so cool though. 5 to 6. So was it 5 magazines, and then the 6th was the album?
It's probably the album. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I think that's that, right?
That's so cool. And if you're, if you want to show some work later, we talked about it. I would love to show some people some of the photos that you've taken, because it's just, it's like almost like the photos that you take. I feel like I can touch and feel the texture, and I can feel the, like, I don't know. It's just really cool light work, and you just see the world in from such a cool perspective, and I love that.
Well, we've talked about the things that we gravitate to. A lot of my best photos are either light or water.
Yeah.
And I think those are both really interesting things to play with.
The reflections
and ripples.
Yes.
And, distortions and rays of light coming through different things. So yeah, those are kind of two themes I find myself coming back to quite a bit.
No, and so you started with the Olympus. It was film, and then you switched over to the other digital camera.
Right. So that was a Coolpix.
A Coolpix. And then are you, I think you've mentioned this to me before, you're not still rocking the Coolpix.
It finally gave up the ghost.
It gave up the ghost.
A couple years ago.
R.I.P.
And the current one that I have was a bit of a leap of faith to a Panasonic.
Oh.
They kind of are one of the last of the Mohicans of this bridge camera concept. Yeah. And so grabbed theirs and have used it for the past couple years, and there was a learning curve for sure. Especially not having a ton of background to do manual settings and feeling comfortable doing that myself.
So this is full manual. Is it mirrorless? Is it DSLR with the mirrors or mirrorless?
No, it's got the mirrors.
It's got the mirrors.
Yeah, and the CMOS light capturing as well. So, which for a lot of, interior shots in Europe, dark, spooky castles and cathedrals, that's a big help.
What lens do you shoot on?
Like, what's the farthest it can zoom?
Or so like I didn't know if you had a zoom lens, a fixed lens.
Well, yeah, it's all built in together. So
so it's got the built-in lens.
Yeah,
still.
yeah. So
okay, cool.
So it's still a bridge camera all in one.
But it has that zoom ability.
Yeah,
and
no
some of the manual settings. Still,
no detachable or anything like that.
I think I've seen. Have you heard of the new shop? It's called Abandoned Cameras.
No.
Are you familiar with Chuck Rubens? Mm-hmm. He was in the Highlands for a long time. Yeah. This is not a paid advertisement. I really like this place, and as I'm saying it, I want to have Alex on, who runs Abandoned Cameras, and he's got a whole story. I won't get into all of it, but basically, he decided to pursue his media degree, and he's like a retired. What's the guy who operates trains? Train operator?
Engineer.
Engineer. Yeah. He's a train engineer operator. Yeah, he was like running trains back and forth. Decided to stop that for reasons that will be explained later if I have him on. But he built a relationship with Chuck, and Chuck was just so he kind of took over the business, but in a way that's trying to support the legacy of Chuck Rubens and build that community, not just like take over. And Chuck is still involved, but his name is Alex, and that store is really cool.
Yeah,
and
check it out.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out even if you just had questions or, if you ever wanted to look at other cameras. He's got accessories. He's got a great point and shoot selection, as well as like old. Now it's kind of like old and new mixed together, and it's just a really cool spot worth checking out. I'm excited to see what he does for the photography community in Louisville as he starts to grow, because it just seems like they have a really cool image that I think that you would really like. But anyways, it's so funny. I started my unedited list. Of questions, and then I kind of edited it a bunch, and I didn't start asking my questions through the edited list, but it was going well. And then I was like, well, maybe I should switch to the edited list. And then I tried, and it like got me lost a little bit. But how long have you and Steve been together?
So we have been together coming up, but we met in 96. So.
Oh, wow. So 30 years.
Yeah.
Dang. And how long have you been married on top of that?
So we got married the very, very first year, 2004.
Oh, really?
So Massachusetts was the first state.
First year it was legalized.
Yes, the first.
Yes.
The first. Oh yeah. I guess you could interpret that two ways. The first year that it was legal to have marriage equality in at least one state, the state of Massachusetts, we took advantage of that, went to Massachusetts and got married.
Were you all living up in D.C. at the time?
Yeah, we were in D.C. As out-of-staters, we had to bring a lot of documents up with us, including passing our syphilis tests. The state of Massachusetts was highly concerned about that.
Sure.
So we had our little blue cards. We had to do a waiting period. So you apply, then you have to like wait 48 hours so you don't get cold feet. Again, Massachusetts is very concerned about these things, apparently. And then, we got married that summer.
Were they one of the first places to legalize it? Or?
Yeah, there was the first state that had, through their Supreme Court ruling,
was recognized as a legal, legally binding.
Yeah, and so it took a while. It basically just said that we were married in Massachusetts, so it wasn't recognized by the federal government.
I was curious.
It wasn't recognized by other states. That came later, and actually came fairly quickly. Once the ball started, it snowballed very quickly, and marriage equality happened.
So were you guys just kind of operating out of faith, like we're going to go ahead and get it done, and then as other states start to open up to it, then it will be recognized everywhere, and just kind of having the faith that would eventually happen?
Yeah.
Nice.
I think just the reality that even if it is just one state, that one state is important to recognize, love, our love, and that even just that one state was important and worth doing. So
that's beautiful. I was debating on whether or not, because I kind of wanted to ask about this stuff a little bit, but I wanted to just kind of see where we were going with it. But I wanted to ask, actually, like being able to take that step, like it's I see, like, you wanted to support that state supporting you guys, but like, what did it mean to the two of you to be able to take that extra step? Because I mean, 9 years, that would have been what, 7 years into the relationship?
Yeah.
7 years into the relationship, I feel like you were probably committed to each other. You saw each other as a long-term thing, but being able to make that extra step, like, what did that mean to you guys?
And it's really funny because, logically up here in the head, we'd been living together for years. We'd been a married couple and everything, but, this official document for years. And I would have said, just, intellectually, I would have said, oh, it doesn't really change anything, about that. We're still the same Dan and Steve that we were, a week ago before the marriage. And when we got married, it felt different. And I feel like as an author, I should be able to articulate how, but it wasn't something that's easy to put into words. It was just this feeling that, oh, this does feel different, even though we're going back to the exact same apartment and we're picking up our lives at exactly the same point. I wouldn't have thought it would be different, and yet it did, and it did matter. Yeah.
And it's, I just imagine it's just kind of like that ability to just say, like, I don't know, it's almost the ultimate sign of trust and vulnerability and commitment. I think that's cool. I think it's cool. I'm happy that we're finally, I guess it's been 22 years now. Which, congratulations. Dang, you. 22 years. Hot dog. That's awesome. I love that we live in a place where it is more widely recognized, and I hope we never move back, because I know that there's been some fear of that kind of stuff, and
no, those forces never stop trying to roll things back, and it can be scary. It can be something that nobody should have to be up at night worrying about, and yet
whether or not your husband's going to be able to stand by your side, and you're, like, it, man, I just hate even the thought of that. I know you do too.
Yes.
Man, as a historian, I like, as a historian, is there any, like, what's your, like, biggest accomplishment as a historian that you're proud of?
Wow. I mean, there's a lot. So
you can give a couple if you want.
Yeah. So, well, maybe I should another long answer.
Sure.
So ecotourism kind of died out with the Great Recession around 07, 08. And so I was starting to cast around for, what was I going to do and where was I going to go. And I ended up going back to school and getting the PhD, which wasn't the plan from the beginning. It sort of developed into the plan. Did it pretty quickly, got it pretty quickly, and then have used it in a lot of different ways. So I've curated exhibits, I've taught undergraduate courses, I've taught graduate courses. I worked at the Smithsonian for several years. I've written.
What did you do for the Smithsonian?
A couple different things. Probably the most recognizable was when I was at the National Museum of American History.
Cool.
Basically a project manager. One of the projects that I got to get my fingers deep into was the history of philanthropy in America.
Oh.
Which was a lot of fun to.
Well, what all did that entail?
So they were creating a set of cases that are still up on the third floor of the museum.
Very
today.
Cool. What?
And so it was really taking both existing collections as well as thinking, well, what should we collect? What should be added to the Smithsonian to flesh out the story? But it required thinking about philanthropy in a lot of different ways. Sort of, you hear the word and everyone, I think, thinks, giant mega donors giving to foundations and nonprofits.
Sure.
And we really expanded that definition. So one of the things in the exhibit was a blood donation kit.
Oh.
And those little things that kids of my generation got at Halloween to go and collect pennies while they were trick-or-treating. And then give those to UNICEF.
Yes. Oh, I don't think I'm aware of this, but I love that.
Yeah, or the March of Dimes cans that were big. One of the documents that I think really hit in a hard way, if you think about philanthropy, if you think about giving, ultimately there's power dynamics there. There's someone who's doing the giving, someone who's receiving. There has to be understandings on both sides, and a lot of power issues come into play. And to illustrate that, one of the things that we included was a manumission document where someone, a male white slave owner, was freeing one of his slaves, and the idea that to him, he would have thought of that as an act of charity, an act of philanthropy.
Sure.
And of course, we view it as in a very different
as a human
lens.
right.
Lens today. But so one of the things about the work that I was able to do is it was very interesting thinking of all the different ways that people give.
Yeah.
And all the different forms that giving can take. So that one was a lot of fun.
No, that is fun. And then that's like the blood drive. It's like, that's not a tax write-off. That's not that, to my knowledge, I mean, really the only thing you get from that is like maybe a blow pop and a thank you.
Yeah.
But and to know that you've potentially saved someone's life.
Yeah.
I actually can't give blood, being a type 1 diabetic. I tried a long time ago. Like, are you allowed to give blood as a teen, like as a high schooler? Or do you have to be 18?
I think you have to be 18, because I don't ever remember blood drives in high school.
I think you have to be 18 as well. I just wanted to, because it would have been shortly after 18, because I just kind of remember there being like oh, you're old enough to give blood moment, and going to do that. And, you fill out that little sheet, and, I checked type 1 diabetic, and they were like, thank you for coming, but we can't take your blood. Which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to I'm at peace with the fact that is a way that I can't give.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's out of my control. But I support, you know, I love that, you know, I love that people do prioritize that and do that. And I hope everybody does that can. Um, but, you know, I never thought of it that way either, as like a philanthropic act. Did I say that right? Philanthropic?
Philanthropic, yeah.
Philanthropic act.
Yeah.
No, that's very cool. Man, I feel like I could talk about these museum exhibits all day.
I will say, I will give you one more answer to something else I'm
yes, please.
super proud of is when I was in the classroom, my specialty is American pop culture, and as such, I used a lot of pop culture in my classes.
Cool.
And
I bet your students loved that.
And that's what I'm proud of. Is there were definitely moments where, you know, either a student said something to me personally, or it came back in student evaluations at the end of the class. But essentially, versions of, you know, I thought I hated history. I only took this class because it's a requirement. I never would have thought I'd love it, and I learned so much.
Yeah.
Because it was accessible, and it wasn't something that seemed boring when it was framed through pop culture.
Right. Finding the ways to relate it. No, that's super fun. I like wish that you were still a professor so that I could come and like audit one of your classes. Just stand in the back and be like, excuse me. I did also want to circle back. I forgot, you have told me before about your ecotourism, and like history and upstart. And I always think about, anytime I think about tourism, especially in the national parks, and especially the ecosystems and how they've been affected over the years. I always think about that example of when Yellowstone was first protected as a national park, and they were trying to bring in the tourism and everything like that. They would have exhibits like bear feedings, where they had bleachers and they're feeding the bears, and luckily they realized that was not good for the ecosystem. It wasn't good for the safety of the bears or the safety of the people, and just long-term sustainability wasn't really there for that. That's like one of the first things that I ever think of. I feel like that was long before your time. When did the first national park open?
1870.
Oh yeah, long before your time. Yeah.
I'm old, Zach, but I'm not that
You're
old.
not there. My friend Dan, he's 150.
No, I mean, and this is something that we tried to incorporate into our tours, is a sense of understanding that these values change. They're not static. That, you know, what was acceptable 170 years ago or 150 years ago or whatever, you know, we realize that wouldn't be good today. Things that we do today may, you know, have a negative lens on them 50 years from now.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's all part of the process, and that's all part of people being educated visitors and doing more than just, you know, Instagram shots at, you know, the most iconic places, but actually thinking about why these places are set aside, what that means, how it happens, what's gone into it from a historical perspective, what has to go into it going forward from a political perspective, from a social perspective, cultural, spiritual. So yeah, I think that's all part of the equation as well.
Well, the hardest part is for places like Yosemite and Yellowstone, where you're getting such high volume tourism coming through. is balance. Because this is something that I've heard recently, and I'm not going to say that it is scientifically correct, but it has been a change in perspective and understanding, that sounds like it could be legitimate to me, and I'm curious of what will come of it. But like when you go into places like Yosemite, they say not to collect firewood, not even branches and stuff like that for your kindling, to purchase the wood, because they want to support the natural ecosystem of plant matter breaking down and decomposing, and then giving nutrients to that land. But something that's been interesting to me, especially like with like the wildfires and stuff like that going on, I've heard a lot about how, because people will say like the natives of this land, they didn't take care, or they didn't take advantage of the resources, and they didn't clear it out. But I've actually heard a lot of stuff about how their relationship with the land was so much more, like they were maintaining that land. They were doing, like, they were picking up the sticks. They were clearing out the brush. They were doing it in a way that was non-destructive, but in a way that actually protected the land, because I've heard it in relation to like wildfires, and how whenever wildfires will hit these protected lands, it just goes up because it has all of that dead brush and stuff like that. And while I've just heard a lot about how like the natives' contribution was so much more than not taking the fire. You know what I mean? Like it just was such a more synonymous, like it was just like a harmonious relationship between man and nature that was doing more than respecting it. It was taking care of it and maintaining it in a way that helps it thrive. And obviously you got 1 million people going through the park. You can't have all of them taking the sticks, but there is a balance somewhere, and how to achieve it is honestly something that I couldn't even get started with.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, throw on my historian hat a little bit here. When national parks are an easy example. When a national park is established, one of the conversations that they have to have around that national park is, okay, the land is now protected from future degradation and future encroachment and future unsustainable use and all that. But we also have an opportunity to roll back the clock and bring the land back to a point. And one of the questions they have to ask is, what period are we turning the clock back to? What year are we trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Is it, 100 years ago? Is it 1,000 years ago? Is it 5,000 years ago? Because each one of those is different in terms of, well, what was the human impact? Were humans part of the ecosystem?
Totally.
Were humans not part of the ecosystem? Were humans a teeny part of the,
Yeah.
And depending on where they want to turn the clock back to, each one of those creates entirely different policies.
Totally.
That then the staff and visitors through regulation and laws like don't take things out of a park.
Yes.
That all becomes part of that equation.
Which ultimately I do think is positive, because it's hard to say you can take this but you can't take that. It's hard to say, you can't say it can be taken until a certain point gets hit, because especially in a lot of these areas, that certain point would happen in a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe even half a day. And people are just so disrespectful to the native lands, to the natural spaces, that it's, even saying a vague policy to someone, like, it has to be no, because if you say like with balance with this, that balance is going to be interpreted differently by each person. It's just great. Is there any change that you saw in your time in ecotourism that you felt like was super impactful to the national park systems?
I mean, I think one of the conversations that happened in the 90s and 2000s, which is when I was primarily working with national parks, was everyone was getting serious about this question of visitor capacity.
Yes.
It was starting to reach that point where a lot of parks, we use the phrase "love to death."
Yeah.
The impacts were getting really serious, really, and you started having parks like Zion experiment with shuttle systems, with parking, outside the park and bringing people in, and lots of pushback to that, and lots of.
But you can get a lot less people in, and now you got to pay
yeah.
somebody else and have the gas expense.
And and even from an ecotourism perspective, the eco side of me is like, oh yeah, that's great, and then the tourism side of me is like, well, that's going to be really hard to work with. And how am I supposed to get my little group of 12 through this system, and so even the most responsive and open audience still has that little bit of selfishness.
Totally.
And, we're all that way. So yeah, I think the conversation around carrying capacity and visitor capacity and what I think we've reached a point where we weren't even asking, are there limits? I think we were like, what are the limits?
Yeah, right.
How do we determine that scientifically? How do we know we're not just going to pick a number out of the air and say, the first 1,000 get to see a park and no one else does?
Right.
What scientifically is the right number?
And it is so hard because it's supposed to be protected spaces for the people, for everyone. That's not been made exclusive, but it's almost like exclusivity. It's almost like exclusivity would be the answer, but then that's when you get into it being unobtainable by the majority of the population.
Yeah.
It's now just a rich person sport.
Well, and ironically, that's how the national parks got started. It was the railroad companies, wealthy luxury package. We wouldn't think of them as luxury today, but at the time, luxury packages to wealthy vacation goers.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're 100%. It's never said as like something for the wealthy, but I mean, that not everybody could do that.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. And man, I would love to. I've been out west and all around several times now. I would love to go from the perspective of the railroad. It just sounds like a blast. You don't have to drive and, sit back and see those parts of the mountains and the valleys that you don't get to see from the road.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Man, now that we're talking about it, just one of the biggest eco rebuildings that I've seen in my lifetime that have always like just really hit me hard in a beautiful way is the reintroduction of wolves into Yellowstone. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar, but how wolves had basically been eradicated from Yellowstone, and the water systems were becoming gross because there were so many deer and other animals that now no longer had a natural predator, so that the balance of like their waste going into the water, it was just kind of destroying the ecosystem as a whole.
Yeah.
And then like the pastures weren't as clean, and Um, after a few years of the wolves being reintroduced, the waterways started to clean up, and it's crazy. And it's stuff like that until you experience, you don't even realize is going to be a thing. I'm just happy that someone out there is realizing these things and making those changes happen.
Yeah, totally. One of the things historians talk about a lot is the idea of unintended consequences.
Yeah.
And I think the wolves are a great example. They knew how much environmental degradation had occurred in this ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't an apex predator other than some bears, but bears weren't enough.
Bears eat a lot of fruits and
they're not,
veggies too.
So
bugs.
So they knew that bringing a predator back would help balance, but you're absolutely right. The all the ways that the balance was restored, just it was like, oh, well, we never thought of that.
Yeah,
I never thought of that. And so sometimes we talk about unintended consequences and it's in a negative way, but that's actually a good example of one of the positives.
Yeah, they were just trying to get the wolves back.
Yeah,
they were just trying to bring the wolves back because that was their home.
Yeah, and they knew that they would have some benefits, but they discovered there was just so much more than they ever.
Yeah,
ever
that's
imagined.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah, because it could have gone the other way. You never know.
Yeah.
And like you said, decide where you want to go back in time. We reintroduce the wolves, but with all of the other corresponding values, where in time does that ecosystem now put us? Is it its own new timeline? Is like it could not have any effect because all of the other corresponding values are now different.
Yeah.
So maybe the ratios are off. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about it as restoring.
Yeah.
So just using that term, using that word, we instinctively know we're restoring a time. We're rolling back the clock. But yeah, what are we rolling it to?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I am fascinated by that stuff. I love our national park system. I hope that it stays protected, and I hope that cool people continue to have those spaces' best interest in mind. I love it, but so just to change things up a little bit, I wanted a little surprise fact about Dan for everybody. I happen to know that you are the official VJ for Big Bar. How did that all come about?
I have to narrow that definition down quite a bit.
Okay.
I have worked with the Big Bar staff to officially create a playlist that is played only at happy hour on Fridays.
Yes. Well, hey. That sounds pretty dang official to me.
But I have made that contribution, and I am proud of it. It's an awesome playlist. It's awesome videos. Come down to Big Bar on a Friday afternoon, and you'll probably see some lots of retro 80s and 90s in there, which is a lot of fun.
And Dan Gifford.
And yes, and
Steve.
I am likely to be a fixture as well.
Yes.
But yeah, so yeah, videos. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about using pop culture in the classroom. I'd love to be able to do movies and TV shows, and I would show clips, from those. But music videos were a kind of perfect vehicle because they're essentially little mini movies a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so if you want to talk about, gender and womanhood, there's awesome videos out there that deal with, sex and sexuality and gender and representation and, all those things. And if you want to talk about race, or you want to talk about class, or you want to talk about, depictions of small town America or rural America, or, it's all in music videos. So I kind of, and I adopted the term VJ because I grew up, I remember MTV launching. I remember the first VJs, and they don't play music videos anymore. So I may as well take the title of VJ. And yeah, so I like I continue to play a lot with music videos. I like when new videos come out. And yeah, it was fun to work with Big Bar here in Louisville to create a VJ set.
And can we shout out your YouTube channel?
Yeah. So there is a YouTube channel called The Thematic VJ.
Yes.
And it is essentially little mini playlists, each one about 15 songs, but they're all super micro themed. So there's a dogs in music videos. There's a cops in music videos. There's high schools in music videos. And when you named one of your cocktails Dancing in Church, there quickly followed a churches in music video. So
specifically dancing or just the churches?
Fair number. It was just churches, but a fair number of people are in there dancing. So.
Yeah, you had to get a little bit of you had to have a bigger song pool.
Yeah. And so that's a lot of fun too, putting those together, because the themes can get kind of crazy. I have fuzzy furry costumes and music videos.
I love this. I need to throw more parties so that I can be throwing the thematic VJ in the background, because I feel like it's perfect. I used to love like dance parties whenever they would always have, like, the DJ would have the screen behind him with like videos playing.
And I feel like we've lost that.
We really have. I feel like COVID kind of did it. Maybe it'll come back. I mean, with thematic VJs like you hitting the town, it's only a matter of time before the people start to catch on again. But yeah, no, check out the thematic VJ and have a good time with that, because it is a good time. So I'm curious. I'm sure to some extent, especially pop cultural, I feel like maybe ties into this a little bit, but there's always new slang, there's always new sayings, as well as a lot of sayings that we use today have hidden origins that people don't know about. Would you say that you're pretty familiar with those types of things? And if so, do you have a favorite one that people use often that they have no idea that the original origin?
Oh, that's a good one. I do think slang and street vernacular, and I think it's hard to keep up unless you're a kid. I mean,
it really is.
Yeah. And not teaching anymore. You also lose access to just hearing it in the classroom and
well, you're semi-retired now, so
exactly.
We can cut off the last few years.
So to answer your first question, I don't feel like I'm keeping up. I don't feel like I think things are speeding past me, and a big part of me is just like, you know what, that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's something that I'm trying to think if there's anything from some of my research that might fit the bill. I'm not going to come up with an example right now, but
that's okay.
I do think a lot of our holiday expressions and have long, deep roots. And
one that I'm most familiar with is the rule of thumb.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the origin of this?
I don't know, but I did just think of one.
Yes. So the rule of thumb, to my knowledge, back in the day, like a long time ago, it was legal to beat your spouse. Sorry, I laughed. I laughed out of being uncomfortable with saying these words out loud, not because I think it's funny. But there was a rule. It was legal to like beat your spouse as long as the stick was no wider than your thumb. And that's where that originated from. I mean, we still use it. I feel like people use the rule of thumb regularly and just have no idea like the negativity behind it. I've always thought that was crazy.
Yeah. No, the one I thought of, and again, this may be legend, but it seems pretty plausible to me, and it was taught to me by a professor. Mind your P's and Q's.
Yes. Okay.
And the origin of that is typesetters when they were typesetting for printing presses, where you had to put each letter individually onto the plate and then bring them back down and put them all back in their cubbies. P and Q are mirror images of each other in a lot of typefaces. Oh. And so you had to watch and make sure that you were putting P back into the P slot and Q in the Q slot, hence minding your P's and Q's.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that is super fun. I love that. That one's way more positive. I like that one better.
We'll use that one.
Yeah. We'll use that one. Are there any new hip words that you've heard that you're just like, what in the world? I have one that I just learned about last night that I wanted to talk about a little bit, but I'm curious if there's anything that is just like, you're just like, what are these kids thinking?
Probably the only one, and it wasn't so much what are they thinking, it was kind of like, I kind of get that. Sigma apparently is a thing where,
yes,
if you're not an alpha and you're not a beta, you're just kind of, middle of the pack average, you're Sigma. I was like,
it makes sense.
One, it makes sense, and two, if anyone bothers to Google it, you're learning a little bit of, Greek history, and
there's some legitimacy to that.
Greek letters, I can't be mad about that. So.
Yeah, I can get behind Riz. Mm-hmm. Riz is like charisma. It's like when you got that confidence, that Riz. That one makes sense to me. I just learned about this one last night. I think it's fairly new, and it's kind of mean. Like these, what are they? Gen X or what is the newest generation?
Gen Zers.
Gen Zers, like their newest thing. They're mean on the internet.
Oh yeah.
But the newest phrase that I have heard of that I'm just like, oh my gosh, is choppelganger.
I'm afraid to even. All right, go ahead. Tell me, but I'm not gonna like it a bit.
A doppelganger. You're familiar with doppelganger?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Someone who looks like you that is a stranger.
Yeah.
So I guess there has been this trend of saying that someone is chopped is saying that they're just not a very attractive person. And so choppelganger is someone who looks like the less attractive version of you. Like they look like me, but chopped.
Okay.
So just like...
Yeah, I'm hoping that one doesn't take off.
I hope not, too. It's rude. Just say doppelganger. Yeah, just say twin.
And just be nice.
Just be nice.
Just be nice, kids.
I feel like everybody is attractive in their own way.
Absolutely.
And, these kids are just dang rude. But yeah, no, there's so much that of the new sayings that it's like I'm trying not to be that old, like, because like back in the day we would say like bet and we would say, yo, that's tight.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And, whatever. But I'm just like, it felt cooler when I was a kid.
It always does.
I know it. Well, man, is there anything you want to talk about?
Oh gosh, I came ready to answer questions. I didn't come.
No, I mean this has been such a blast, and I feel like
awesome.
I just want to shout out. You never mentioned the third book.
Oh, so first book was on holiday postcards and holiday images. Third book was local history, Louisville, Filson Historical Society. Second book is probably that I should have mentioned. This is one of my proudest. My great grandfather was a whaling captain,
Really?
And the great thing about having a whaling captain ancestor is there's tons of documentation about his life because they kept logbooks.
Yeah.
There were merchant records, merchant sea records. There were ports of call that were all recorded.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things that came out when I started looking into this ancestor that totally surprised me, and no one in the family really knew anything about, was he had taken a whaling ship from New Bedford, Massachusetts, which is where the whaling fleet was at that time, to Chicago for the Chicago World's Fair, 1893. And he was the one that captained it through the canals and Great Lakes.
Whoa.
And brought it down to Chicago. Well, I had learned about that years ago. Actually, even before I went to school, I had sort of stumbled into it pre doing this academically, and it always stuck with me. And when we moved to Louisville, it was about time for me to start on another book, and I actually had another project in mind. I'm not going to say what it was,
sure.
But I started, and I just like, I don't want to do this. I want to look into this Chicago thing. I want to look into this voyage because I think
couldn't get it off your mind.
Yeah, and what I ended up doing was recreating the voyage through historical, but then looking at it from a deeper question of whaling was at this moment where it could go to a fair and be presented basically as a museum piece. It was being memorialized, even though my ancestor was still active in it. He was in a dying industry, and it was dead enough that it could be turned into a sideshow attraction, basically at the World's Fair.
Totally.
And what does that mean? What goes into that? What is part of that process? And so that's the second book. It's called the Last Voyage of the Whaling Bark Progress. And
very cool.
And it's all about taking this whale ship to Chicago, but also the moment that whaling is dying.
That's so wild. So whaling, is it like the hunting of whales?
Right. Yeah.
Hunting. So what were they hunting for?
They were extracting whale oil. So basically,
for perfumes and stuff.
Well, mostly for it was used as an industrial lubricant. It was used for light. It was a great lighthouse fuel. So when petroleum is discovered and they start producing byproducts from that, that's one of the things that really kills off whaling is there are better forms of oil, better forms of light, better forms of
more ecosystem sustainable.
And then sort of a secondary source is the baleen from whales, the parts of their mouth that they strain. That could be used the way we use plastics today. They could be bent into eyeglass frames.
Wild.
But the most famous thing that it was used for were women's corsets. And
interesting.
And the hoops of skirts. And as fashion changed, that was also something that sort of died off. So it was
so fun.
There was a lot of factors here. But yeah, the whaling was essentially extractive use. It was harvesting, taking the animal and breaking it down into primarily distilled blubber.
Yeah.
And baleen.
Wow, that is so great. Are there any you said something about like show exhibits and kind of like the process. Are there any exhibits today that still acknowledge that history?
So there's a fantastic whaling museum in New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Oh, cool.
And actually the National Park Service has an additional site adjacent to that. So there definitely are places that preserve history. There's actually only one whale ship left in America.
Wow.
And that's at Mystic Seaport.
It's the same boat?
It's not the same boat. It's a different boat. Interestingly enough, though, he did serve on that
cool.
one as well.
That is wild.
So there are places that preserve that. But as far as I know, this book is really the only memorialization of this story.
Very cool.
And I think that's interesting. And the fact that it was an ancestor.
Yeah.
That as a historian, that presents some challenges. Can I be objective?
Yeah.
What are my biases here? So, I think being conscious of it meant that I, was aware of it and wrote, in a way that mitigated that possibility.
Totally.
But again, you were asking earlier, what am I proud of? I'm really proud of that book because I think it takes this really little story. A whale ship goes to Chicago and expands it and expands and expands it into something that's very relevant today. I mean, there's all kinds of dying industries today. We live in Kentucky, and you can't not talk about coal,
right?
And the mining industry, or manufacturing, or all these other industries. And so,
absolutely.
So yeah, I think that was a fun project to work on as well.
No, that's super fun, and that sounds exciting. Well, we will definitely cite all 3 of your books so that people can check them out. We've got the thematic VJ, and then I guess wanted to ask as well, and if the answer is no, that's fine, but is there a place besides the photos that we show people today that people can see some of your photography? Or
I haven't done a photo website in a while.
Yeah, that's fine.
I used to, and I haven't kept up with it. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you'd be willing to share something, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I will definitely share some of your photos, and I hope everybody checks out your books and your VJ page, and tune in because, Dan is always up to something really cool, and you never know what you might see from him next. And I did want to mention that it started on the last episode, but I forgot to mention it. I'm letting each new guest pick a new plant to bring up to be a part of the set for the episode. So we've got this beautiful black ZZ plant that Dan picked today, and I just wanted everybody to pay mind to that. And thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast.
This has been a blast. Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Yes, thank you. I can't wait to see what's next.
Thank you.
Sick. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today. If you have a moment and you're not driving, the last couple minutes of this episode are a slideshow of Daniel's photography. Please do yourself the favor and check out some of this beautiful work. Thank you.